All right, we're back.
Okay.
So
I can hear you now, Frankie.
awesome. So one of the things, like one of the reasons why I really wanted to have you on is because a while ago, I saw an interview where you were talking about this concept of flow, and you were talking about how that's really helped you in your journey. So I just wanted to kind of pick your brain about that, because that that idea of flow, it kind of changed the way that I approached my training and the game
Mhm.
and going to tournaments and stuff like that, because I finally like looked into it myself, and it pretty much like changed everything for me. So I just wanted to like get your perspective on like how you ran into it, and just like your whole journey
I
with that.
guess I was reading a lot of books about Buddhism at the time. Um, and yeah, specifically about the psychology of flow. And there's this really cool graphic that kind of like breaks it down, like the challenge to skill like ratio, what you feel based on your ability.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll link that for you here. Drop it in the Discord.
Yeah, thanks.
So if you scroll down a bit, you'll see that colored whatever the hell you call that thing,
Mm-hmm.
that colored chart there. I always thought that that was really interesting. But the flow, it's not something that you can like go after. It's just something that comes naturally when you do something a lot. Like you can achieve flow cooking dinner, mowing the lawn, playing an instrument, right? Playing a fighting game.
Mm-hmm.
And then it's when you enter that state of flow that just things feel like they just feel so great, right? Like you don't really have to think. Things just happen naturally. Yeah, it's just a good state of mind to be in.
And so how did you approach? I mean, and I know I've read a few books on it, and it's obviously not something that you can snap yourself into and out of, but
Right.
like you said, it's something that occurs just naturally, like when the these perfect circumstances meet.
Hmm.
Um, was there any way that you were trying to train that in yourself?
No,
No,
no, nothing in particular. Just play a lot.
you didn't.
Yeah, there's really nothing that I think that you can say. Like a lot of people when they first start like on that journey, to enlightenment or whatever. And not to say that this is enlightenment, but it's like a Chinese finger trap. Like you can't force it, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's there's nothing that anybody can say to get you where you want to go, and I think that's something that newcomers to these concepts they don't like.
Mm.
They like you go to YouTube, right? You get an instructional video. They tell you how to draw this particular thing or do this particular thing. But the only answer is like just do it. You just got to do it and do it and do it and do it, and then eventually, it may come, it may not come. But that's the best that I can say about that.
Because like when I got introduced to that, a lot of like the reason for it was because I felt I was too scatterbrained in tournaments. Like
Mm.
I felt that I wasn't like focused enough, or that like things would take me out of my focus like really easily. And so I
Hmm.
started to meditate, starting with
Yeah.
like 5 minutes a day, and trying to like push that. And
Okay.
it was just interesting because what I found, when it was just easier for me to lock in, and it took a lot of practicing situations over and over again and getting that to go. But the biggest thing for me was that like understanding just general anxiety about tournaments. And
Hmm.
it's like when things aren't going right now, you're not worried about what's happening right now, but you're rather anxious about the moment that's going to come in the future, because things are
Yeah.
tight. And so you end up playing out of yourself because you want the match to end already.
Yeah. It's
And
crazy how the mind like fucks you up like that, right? It's
yeah.
like we're supposed to be in this together. But if you look at that chart that I linked, it looks like that means that you were kind of medium skill, but the challenge level was high.
Mhm.
So you felt the anxiety.
Right. That chart, hold on, let me bring it up. I'll probably edit it over the screen.
That's interesting. So, frankly, Franklin, you were looking for something. But Damdai, did you just stumble onto that thought process, or were you looking for something too to help you in tournament?
Oh man, how am I going to remember how I found it?
I'm making you go in.
Um,
Well, while you think of that, I'll just tell you about me. I like the crowd
okay.
and the like the pressure. Like I love the pressure.
All right.
Yeah.
Yeah, some people they flourish under the pressure.
Yeah.
Me personally, I don't like it, but I don't like the way, like, I don't like the anxiety and the worry of, am I going to perform good?
Mm-hmm.
But almost always I end up performing good, but I still get nervous and worry the next tournament, which is kind of interesting. So I'm able to perform under pressure. I just don't like it. I don't like that feeling. But I love the feeling when it's over and you win. Like there's no better feeling, right? So any feelings, any bad feelings that came before that, it's worth it. But if you lose the tournament, like that shit is the worst feeling. When I would go to a tournament, fly out there and stay in some shitty hotel, and then you lose the tournament, man, I just wanted to go home like so bad, just go see my wife. I'm like, what am I doing here? Stuff like that. But it's the win that keeps you going.
Right. Yeah, and those nerves, they never go away, do they? Like even
I mean, I guess they kind of do. Like those nerves come because you really want something to happen.
mm-hmm.
And then it's like the Chinese finger trap. Like if you want it too much, like you're not going to get it. So, you're in the scene enough and you go through that enough, and then it doesn't really matter anymore, I guess, if you win or lose. Like, of course you still want to win, but you don't sweat it as much. So I have been in tournaments recently where I feel no nerves, which is great because I think you end up playing better anyway, I think.
Mm-hmm.
But like that tournament, what was it, 30th anniversary, where I fought Nuki in the grand finals.
Mm-hmm.
I felt nervous before that, and that was pretty recent. So I think it just depends on the scale of the event.
Yeah, like the moment. Have you played Nuki before that tournament?
Yes, we played at Evo 2015. I think that was the last Evo I went to.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we played there, and he beat me.
It's because both of us have traveled enough in our old man games where there is this expectation for us to lose all the time to Japanese players.
Mm-hmm.
Does that ever mess with you?
I mean, I'm so used to it now. Like, it's just the way it is.
Right.
And people will be like, well, what are you talking about? Like, we're all human. Why can't you beat them? But when you look at their scene, it's the equivalent to me of saying, like, who's like the best tennis player right now? Djokovic or whatever his name is.
Djokovic, yeah.
Right. So like you have him, and then you take kind of like a good, like, he's an S tier player, right? You take a good A tier player, which is the equivalent of us US players, and they practice once every 3 months, say, and then you're going to put him head to head with Djokovic, and of course you don't expect that A tier player to win, and I think that's what it is like in Street Fighter. These guys are playing, every day, every week, all year since '94. And then you have the U.S. players. We're so spread out. Before Fight K2, of course, there was no online play for many players. I mean, people were still playing on Fight K1. But effectively, the only time we were playing, I know me personally, the only time I was playing was at tournament. Like, there was even no practice.
Mm-hmm.
So if I'm only going to 2 or 3 tournaments a year, I'm only playing and practicing 2 or 3 times a year. So given that, you can't expect me to beat, these Japanese players. So I think that's what it comes down to. If I could move to Japan and play with them and train up every day, I think things would be different. Back when I was practicing often, when I lived in New York, and we would do sessions like every week with Riz and the Connecticut guys. Even Darkside Phil was in there. Um, I was able to do Japanese, I think, more often back then. But now it's like, it's crazy, you know? I mean, I still do good fighting US players just because they're in the same boat as I am. They're not playing every day. They can't, you know, get to that level that the Japanese are at. But when I go from playing them to playing a Japanese players in tournament, it's just kind of a shell shock. It's like I'm not ready for that challenge. So I tend not to do good, and I expect not to do good, and that probably makes me play worse. So it is what it is. Maybe there's something mentally I can do to overcome it. But like I said, the difference in the practice, the time being put in, you would never expect anyone in our position to be able to beat someone in their position.
Do you think Fight K2 might be able to bridge that, even if it's a little bit? That you know, the amount of high quality practice that you can get?
Maybe if you like really like that's your goal to like really do good and learn and study matchups and, you know, analyze your losses and like really train to get better. I think so. Sure, as long as the connection is good enough for you to anti-air DP, then like yeah. Right? But if you can't, if the connection is not good enough to do that, then it's like a different game. There's no point in playing.
You know, they got pressure too. You know, they're the ones expected to.
It's true.
So Damdai is over here claiming scalps. They got to get off that plane.
Yeah, I mean, it's rare.
It's like,
But yeah, I mean, it definitely sucks more for them to lose to us than it does for us to lose to them. Yeah, but given how much they play and their whole one and done situation, I think they deal with that way better than we do.
Especially at a ST, right, where the matches could be over in 45 seconds.
Yeah, it's hard to read them. Like you can't tell if they're nervous at all. I don't think that they are, but who knows?
Did you ever get a chance to go to SBO?
Yeah, 2 of them.
Yeah, and how was it? Like, how was your experience over there?
It was cool. I mean, it was a fun experience. Of course, one and done is bullshit. It's totally unsatisfying. Like, how crazy is that? Like, you fly, 14 hours to another country, all this buildup, and then like you play one game, you're done. You're like, that's it. Like, obviously, that's stupid. No, but it was fun to take part. Both SBOs I went to were when it was bigger. I guess that was the height of SBO when it was at the Tokyo Game Show. So yeah, that was a fun experience. These like giant screens, all the people there watching, all of these superstar players.
The smoke machine.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun to represent. I'm glad I got to do those.
Is there anything like that for ST now in Japan,
No.
or did they kind of give that up?
Not SBO.
But X Maniac.
There are big tournaments in Japan. You have XEST,
XEST.
which replaced X Mania. You have Fox. I think that's the Fox 5, something like that. They're all team tournaments, by the way, which I'm not the biggest fan of. But maybe they should not do singles over there.
Wait, what?
Wait, you're surprised they don't do singles?
No, why you don't like
You don't
team
like
tournaments?
Oh, why I don't like teams? Because typically it's one and done, which I don't like. Like, I want my run back. I often lose the first game of a set just learning what my opponent does. And when I don't get a chance to, apply what I've learned, I just feel like robbed. Typically, I have not liked relying on other people in team games. Like, even when I played Quake, I just did 1v1. Yeah, it's just I generally do not like team games. That's why I like fighting games. I don't like having to rely on other people to take me to the finish line, and I don't like letting other people down. With that said, I've been in fun team tournaments before.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't think that I would travel across the country or to another country for a team tournament. Like if that's not my sole reason for going.
So it's
Well,
singles
there goes
for
that
you.
co-op cup invite.
What's up?
There goes that co-op cup invite.
Yeah. I mean, if that was the only tournament going down and I got into third strike, maybe I'd change my mind. I mean, that looks like a fun time.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's different. I think that it might be different in third strike too. Like the reasoning why team tournaments are fun in third strike are probably more accepted, and I think it has to do with the tier list, and I think it has to do with how there's a big jump between Yun and Chun Li and everyone else,
Hmm.
that the one game format makes it actually exciting,
Right. I get
because
that.
Alex, how can an Alex be expected to beat Chun Li 3 out of 5 times,
Yeah.
in one sitting, whereas over there it pretty much happens every tournament where you get different upsets and things like that. So from a
Yeah.
spectator's perspective, I understand why team
Especially
tournaments might be.
I think they prefer teams over singles.
Yeah, because they want to see us all die of heart attacks at like age 45. That's why.
Yeah. It is fun, the camaraderie and your teammates cheering you on and stuff.
But it's that singles glory for you.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, that's the reason I've been in this so long. Like if I wasn't winning as much as I was, I probably would have stopped a long time ago. But that like endorphin release when you win a tournament is just so good.
It's different. It's really different.
ST is so fast. ST team tournament would be done in a half hour.
Yeah, it's too fast. The U.S. team tournaments that we've been doing recently, they do more than one game. Like each player that you fight on the team might be like in a set or something.
Yeah, I was gonna ask about that.
Yeah, and I think that's much better. Motherfucker, I moved my mouse.
That's how
Let's
good
give
I
it a
can.
second for the speakers to come back on.
Yeah,
All right, there we go.
yeah.
Uh, yeah, so like yeah, one game ST is just absurd.
And so how? So your
That's
guys are
just
doing
over in
it.
60, like less than 60 seconds. That's nuts.
Mm-hmm. And so you guys are doing it like the way that like the Street Fighter, like the newer team tournaments are, where it's one person versus. It's still Pokemon style, but it's still it's 2 out of 3 instead of just one game.
Yeah, so it varies. Like we haven't had any big team tournaments yet. It's just like what people do for fun. Just
Mm-hmm.
kind of switch it up a bit because it has been mostly singles for the last 20 years in the U.S. Um, yeah, it's whatever the whoever's running the tournament wants to do. There's no like standard, but maybe in the future, maybe next year. I know a lot of players would like to see team tournaments become the standard, but I always feel like to get players to travel in this country because it's so much bigger than Japan, like you need more there. Like there needs to be a singles tournament also. I think that's
Mm,
still the bread and butter.
that's interesting, because there was a big divide in the third strike community about that not too long ago, a few years ago.
About we lost
Yeah.
uh, about singles versus teams.
Yeah, about structuring it in that way, whether there could be. I think the conversation was mostly around whether a team tournament, like a major for a team tournament, could be sustained. Is that something that
Hmm.
people would travel for? And I think
I see. I see.
and I think that it being the only thing isn't, like, I don't think that it's possible because of that. And I don't know if it's just the expectation of singles tournaments, or because, like you said, we live in such a big ass
Yeah, I think
continent.
that is it. Like 100%. Like you need to understand that when people are spending 500 to $1,000 to travel for a weekend, they don't want to go and lose one game and that's the end
Mm.
of their weekend. So I think there needs to be, if you're going to do teams, I think there also has to be a singles.
Even if the format of the team tournament is such that it's a 2 out of 3 format, still it's like 2 out of 3, and losers bracket.
Yeah, I think that might work
Because
as long as the player doesn't feel like they didn't get their money's worth.
Mm.
You know?
Because I know Matt, had some designs about that, so I was just curious about his perspective on it.
Yeah.
The third strike, I want teams 100% all the way. I don't care if you was on a flight for 14 hours. You played for 2 minutes. You got to hold that. Like, I love that high stakes. Like,
Yeah. So, but
that's
what about what Frankie said, where each game, is the set, not just a single game, and there's a losers bracket. Is that acceptable?
That's acceptable because you got to take into consideration people's feelings.
Man, you wanted to be able to fire from game one, huh? Perform now or die. I good losing a one and done. If I lose a double elimination, like I'm never salty about that because I feel I had ample time to adapt and come back. And if I didn't, that's my bad. But if there's not enough games, then I feel like cheated.
Yeah.
You're a year older than me, Damdai, and I got to be honest, man. I'm just tired. Like that singles format kills me, man.
I'm tired too. Like I said, I don't think I'll be going to tournaments anymore. It's very draining. The only thing that keeps me going is that the win, the feeling that you get when you win.
Yeah, it's I heard this saying, I forgot this actress's name, but she basically was giving advice to like this younger actress, and she said, whenever you can sit down instead of stand up, you should sit down, and whenever you can lie down instead of sit down, you should lie down. And that's how I feel about singles tournaments. Like every time I go, I'm just looking for a spot to park my ass because I just get tired like an hour and a half in. Like I'm fucking ready to go.
Yeah, I got you. I understand that. I mean, it feels good when I'm watching a tournament that I'm not competing in.
Yeah.
Like, damn, man, this is nice. This is relaxing, right? You don't get that relaxing feeling when you're in the tournament.
Mm-mm.
So, yeah, I respect that. I mean, it's nice just to not compete.
I know you guys remember Marn, how Marn used to show up to tournaments with like plushies and bags and cheers.
I didn't get it. I didn't get it back then, but now I got it. Now it makes perfect fucking sense. It's gonna show up to the next tournament in a Snuggie.
So how's the third strike scene doing these days?
It's going well. I think Fight K2 has injected, a certain life into the game that was waning away because of COVID. The offline, like there are new offline scenes cropping up, throughout the US. And then that kind of got, the boot put on it, once COVID happened. And so, but there's, on any given day you could go and there's like tons of people streaming Third Strike now. It's just it's interesting the way that, it's getting attention now after so many years, from when Street Fighter 4 came out, obviously, till I would say when Street Fighter 5 came out, it was pretty much, it was a void. And now, I don't know, there seems to be a resurgence of interest in that.
That's great to hear. I mean, it felt like 3S was always there, obviously. Like, along with ST, you had the ST, and 3S was like the ST counterpart.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it's nice to hear that you've got some growth there. As far as ST, I think the only growth we have is a scene in Texas at the Free Play arcades.
Yeah, Free Play is beautiful.
Where they had those big Super Turbo tournaments the last few years. But they have a really healthy scene there, or they did before COVID.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, the first big offline tournament after all this shit's done is gonna be off the chain.
Shit.
It's gonna be fucking tables and going nuts.
Would you try to make it out?
Out to what?
Out to, let's say Free Play hosted something big. Would you?
Yeah, I'll be there.
Yeah.
Yeah, if they fly me out. But yeah, I mean, they were supposed to fly us out this year, but
Oh, for what? Was it for that tournament?
Yeah.
Oh shit.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was supposed to get flown out too to that, to a Third Strike tournament at Free Play. The Jazzy finale
Oh shit,
is
nice.
gonna be there this year.
So,
Not at the same
damn
time
that,
as the.
damn that. Why you asking about third strike? You trying to dance? Like, what's up, man? You trying to dance?
I wish. It just feels like such a long mountain to climb.
Game's
Like
easy.
that. Yeah, that's a big trick to teach this old dog. But does Third Strike run good on Fight K2? Because
um,
it had emulation problems on Fight K1, right?
yeah, yeah, for sure. I mean, Matt plays a lot more on it than I do, so he's probably better to answer that
Yeah.
question.
Yeah, if your opponent has a good connection, good to go.
Okay.
Um,
Yeah,
and you
Third
know,
Strike more than like any other
you got me,
game.
baby. Got you.
The parry system like makes the connection like so crucial.
Hmm.
Like any delay at all, just kind of that game just breaks down.
Yeah, that's how I feel
But
about it.
I mean, the sprite work is like the best that's like ever been in human history. Like that Metal Slug, I think, is the peak
Of
sprite work.
2D sprite work.
Hmm.
You play
Yeah.
you play Cuphead?
I did not play Cuphead. I know it obviously, but that is I don't feel like that's in the same because it's high resolution,
Mm-hmm.
right? It's HD. Like that's more like you don't call the old Bugs Bunny cartoons. You don't call that sprite work, right?
Right,
That's
right.
just like it's just animation. And I mean, I think Cuphead's dope. I think it looks great, and I'm surprised it took that long for somebody to do that with that style of animation. It's
Mm-hmm.
just like it fits. But as far as like the pixel art, I don't know of anything better than the Metal Slug games and Third Strike.
Yeah, that's the one thing that I think Third Strike can hold its hand, his hat on, can hang his hat
Hmm.
on, proudly is that. Because obviously, people who are in the fighting game community, like they spend their time, trashing the game for its, imbalance and for,
Hmm.
its resident goofiness, and it's broken shit, like the unblockables and the 100% combos and all that stuff. But
Yeah,
that's the one thing that kind of everybody can agree with is that the game is presented beautifully.
and I wish Super Turbo looked like Third Strike.
What
Imagine.
would you accept it
Huh?
though? I don't know if you'd accept it if somebody came along now and
I might if the sprite work was good.
Mm.
Like that's what's so frustrating about the HD remix thing
hmm.
because they were supposed to have Udon on board to do it, but they should have done it 240p sprite work. They shouldn't have done HD drawings because that it just looks like a flash game. People would say,
Yeah, it does look like a pop-up book. It doesn't look
yeah,
natural.
it looks cheap.
Yeah.
It looks flimsy. It doesn't look solid.
Make America 240p again. That's
Yeah, that's
damn
what I'm
guy's
saying.
running on the ticket. 240p or bust. Not feel you.
Was it? I heard something that when two things, one about HDR and then one about the 30th anniversary. But
Uh-huh.
so for HDR, was it disallowed to change the sprite work back to the original ones in tournament play, or was that like the tournament standard? Because I know that.
Tournament
Yeah, go ahead.
in the beginning, they had the HD sprites, but I think that as time went on, I mean, this was a short period of time
Mm-hmm.
because HDR really only lasted like a little over a year, I think.
Mm-hmm.
I think it quickly turned into the ST sprites were the standard, but just totally crazy that you couldn't change the backgrounds to be 2D. So you had this like really jank
Yeah.
contrast of the old sprites on top of the HD backgrounds, and that's just another thing that just added to the general distaste of HDR for a lot of people.
Yeah, it's strange too, because the one thing that I did like about HDR in terms of its presentation was like the whole I have a feeling you're gonna disagree with me about this, Damdai, but the hitboxes, the hitbox display in training mode and stuff like that.
Oh no, that's always a good thing. I'm for that.
Yeah, that was the,
Yeah.
and I feel like they just threw it away. I don't know. I haven't seen it in any other Street Fighter fucking since, any training
Yeah,
mode
it's
since.
weird, right? It's like they're just these disjointed like departments, I guess. You have one team work on something, but it certain good things don't get passed on. Like the button configuration, like Sterling got that down.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, I don't know if they've ever done that since, but he really nailed that. Yeah, hitbox viewer obviously
How did the
is
hip?
a.
How did the button configuration work in HDR?
So once you trigger the button config,
Mm-hmm.
then you just hit the buttons and that's it. You don't have to like cycle down, like left, 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 down, left,
Oh.
left, left, down. That was the traditional button input before HDR did that.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and then I think other games have done where you press the button to set it,
Yeah.
but you still have to move the joystick down like to the next one you want to set.
Mm-hmm.
It was just like a nice quality of life thing. You just press the buttons like super quick. You can just piano 1 2 3 1 2 3. Your buttons are set.
Yeah. It's strange, just like how so many good ideas can exist in the same
Yeah,
company and just be so spread out among all
yeah. I
of
don't
its
know if it's
properties.
really don't understand what makes a thing good. So it's just not. It doesn't even occur to them. Like let's add this because it's great. But who knows? It's just speculation.
They got a tournament player on the dev team who tries his best to like slide stuff in, and we get lucky.
Yeah, that must be a frustrating job.
Yeah, I mean, I think when you have games like Skullgirls that they have their fingers on the pulse of tournament play,
Mhm.
you're more likely to get those quality of life things just because they've been there and they've competed and they understand like what potential things can hold down the tournament.
Yeah, for sure. Like you have Keats, with the Killer Instinct and
Mm-hmm.
whatever games he's worked on. I know like he's always pushing like the good shit,
Mm-hmm. For
right? Like he
sure,
understands.
100%.
So it's great to have something like that there for sure. But it's difficult in the big companies like AAA, Capcom and stuff when you got whoever you have to please.
I'm just thinking about Street Fighter 6
Yeah,
already.
Damdai has ideas.
Because
He's
I'm
working
a
from
hopeful
home now. He's
person.
got ideas.
Yeah, I always have hope because I'm hopeful. And Ono's out of there. Um,
Out of there.
he's out of there. But I don't know the guys that are in charge now. I mean, I saw their picture.
Mm-hmm.
Um, here's hoping,
He's hoping.
right? That'd be crazy. Imagine a game that was satisfied us old ST and 3S players, unified everybody. It's like the theory of everything, right? It just defines
Oh
the
man.
universe.
Yeah, I don't know. I it's gonna take some collaboration. I don't think they want to pay anybody from the FGC to like come up there and tell them what's good and what's not good.
Yeah, I just hope it doesn't continue down this trend of simplification, idiocracy.
Yeah, I don't know. You remember that game that came out? It was exactly what you were describing, where all the special moves were one button.
Yeah, the
What's
cannons
it called?
did.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
Uh, Shit, does anybody remember that name?
No, it just goes to show.
I'm not gonna remember it right now. I mean, that was like they never released it. It was kind of just like a tech demo.
Yeah.
I don't know if they used that to get their job at Riot,
Mm.
but um, yeah, I mean, some people love that game. I know Filipino Champ did. He sang its praises. Some other players.
How
Yeah,
can how can you go back though? Once you have this customer base who's used to, especially like the execution barrier not being there.
yeah.
Just from a business perspective, you can't go back.
Well, so you look at things like Dark Souls and Ghosts of Tsushima,
Mm-hmm.
right? I haven't played these games, but if I understand correctly, they are difficult,
Yeah.
relatively speaking, to other games, right?
Yeah.
And these games have come out after this trend of simplification, and they've amassed, a cult following. So, given that, I think there's hope.
Yeah.
But because fighting games are so complex, it is like learning an instrument to get good at them. You have to put in a lot of time, so much more time than you do these other games that just have one mechanic that you got to master and learn the patterns. So that's a big ask from people, and that's why fighting games have been historically niche. Really small communities, even in esports. On paper, it feels like it should be as popular, more popular than the first-person shooters, but it's just that barrier to entry is just so much greater. And I don't know how they can overcome that without making it, one-button specials. So it might be relegated to this, small groups for all of eternity, and that's just the way it is, right? Not everybody is playing piano, and not everybody is an artist. These things that you have to put in hours and hours to get good at, that just it automatically, limits that from a large part of the population.
Yeah, I used to think about this a lot, and I do think that there's something about the video game model of what determines a successful game to be in contention with that fact about fighting games. And I always look at things like boxing, where there's about 30,000 registered boxers in the entire globe. But it's still a multi-million-dollar, like $1 billion industry. And it's because they focus on the few people who have it in them to do that, and they focus on them and they sell them, to the public. And then it's just hard to, it's hard to, like, when you're watching LeBron James, you understand that when he dunks a ball, that's something that's really hard to do. Like, you don't need anybody to explain it to you. It just looks amazing. But we don't have that luxury. Like, you need somebody to explain to you why this reversal DP was so godlike. You know what I mean? Like, you need that kind of undertone of explanation or just understanding. And that is always working against us in that sense. And just the sense of creating this product that's, maybe in that vein of boxing or or combat sports, where you have a very select group of elite people and the whole thing is marketing them to play against one another.
Yeah.
Negative edge, that wasn't in the guide. What is that?
Yeah, I mean, I think about tennis too in that way. It has that tournament structure, and it's a high buy-in. But I just don't. I don't know. I do think fighting games or video games in general have that barrier to spectators, like to spectator support in that sense.
Well, so first-person shooters, I think it's easy to understand. Right? Everyone knows, point and shoot, right? You can tell when somebody has good aim. But things like League of Legends and fighting games, you need to know the game to understand it. Like, I can't just have my dad watch Street Fighter, watch League of Legends, and understand the skillful shit that the players are doing.
Yeah.
So that's a big problem. League of Legends overcame that by just getting everybody to play the game, however they did that. I've never played it myself.
Yeah,
I don't know if it's addicting. Like, you play it once and it sucks you in. I know that it being a team game like that, the 5v5, that the players were incentivized to get their friends to play. So that kind of created this like multi-level marketing thing. And the player base just like really spread like wildfire. So that works for that, but that doesn't really work for a fighting game, I guess.
Like, they'd have to make ranked mode, like teams only.
Yeah.
like a team format where you get like paired up with 4 random people and you guys do like a mini, tournament.
Yeah, so it's like if Marvel 5 comes out, and instead of you choosing 3 characters yourself, like, you need teammates.
Oh, okay, yeah. I like that.
Yeah, it sounds good on paper.
It's funny. I mean, it's an interesting observation because I don't know about you guys, but when I look at League, it just looks like pixel vomit all over on the screen. Like, I just don't know what the fuck's happening.
Yeah, I don't know what's going on. But now
I'll
we know
watch
how
it.
people feel when they watch our fighting games that don't know it.
It might look boring, and I think that's worse. You know, I think looking boring is worse than looking weird. I don't know. Like
Yeah.
that's League of Legends is like the video game Monet, and I don't know, and we're something else. But it's like these two
We're
guys.
the Mad Max.
Yeah,
It's like Mad Max.
I wish.
Hunting for
It's
gas
just
and
hard to
whatnot.
get folks interested in. I don't know. In watching, I don't know. It's
It is. There's a lot of things competing for people's time and attention.
hmm
I don't know why some players choose fighting games to play, which game they choose to play. Uh, in Super Turbo, especially, we have not many young players at all, but the young ones we do have, like Ultra Combo, this West Coast player, Old Sagat, he's, he's a rising star, I guess you would say, even though he's been in the scene for seems a long time, maybe 8 years or so.
mm,
But he's a young guy, early 20s now. Back then, he was late teens, I guess.
wow.
Uh, I don't know why he got into Super Turbo because he wasn't playing that game when he was young when the game came out. I should ask him that. But it's stuff like that. Like it's so rare to get new blood into our games that I don't know if they'll survive in the future. I think they'll just dwindle, get smaller and smaller.
They'll die out with us.
Yeah, it'll just be us playing in the old folks' home, 80 years old, which is an interesting concept because our old people that we observe, right, our parents and
hmm
grandparents, like they didn't grow up with games, so they don't play games.
hmm
That's our vision of old people, but that's not going to be us, right?
Right.
We're going to be old. We're going to be using computers. We're going to be playing these games. So it's going to be interesting to see what that's like when we're 80 and stuff.
Yeah, and what
It
the
sounds great, right? I'd much rather be playing Street Fighter than Bingo or Bridge or whatever.
right or
And it's not,
backgammon.
and it's not like sports where like if a father plays basketball,
Hmm.
he has a son, he putting a basketball in that kid's crib. Like we're not
Yes.
trying to get no acclimated to a joystick when he's 5. Like
No,
we let them decide.
Right.
I'm throwing my moss stick at that little, and he better catch it. I ain't playing with him. It's gonna be crazy. Like, what's gonna be the thing that that the younger kids are doing when we're fucking playing games at an elderly age, and we're gonna look crazy like our parents do with their sewing machines and shit.
It'll be something
But
stupid.
probably VR, right? I mean, something VR like.
Yeah, VR is another thing that I'm really hopeful. I hope that shit is really good by the time we're old and decrepit,
Oh yeah.
where you just throw that shit on and you're young again.
Mm,
Yeah.
I hope.
that'd be
Oh
dope.
man, screen went off again.
These kids are
Yeah,
gonna be
but
like,
yeah.
"Hey, Dad." They're gonna be like, "Hey, Dad, I saw a combination of letters. I don't know what it is. CRT? Like, what is that?
Come over here,
Can
Sonny.
you break that?"